The 39 lashes were finished, but the suffering was not over. The soldiers took that broken body and began something else. The soldiers dressed Jesus in a scarlet robe, a red military cloak, mockery of royalty. But think about this medically. A rough military cloth was draped over a back and shoulders completely destroyed by the flogging. The fabric clings to raw, open wounds. The very act of placing the robe on his shoulders was already another act of pain. The soldiers twisted together thorn branches into a crown, thorns measuring at least 3 to 5 centimeters, and pressed it down onto his head. The scalp is one of the most densely vascularized areas of the human body. The thorns ruptured these blood vessels. Blood began flowing down his forehead and temples. Then the soldiers took a reed and struck the crown from above. With every blow, the thorns were driven deeper. The nerves of the scalp compressed. Intense headache begins. Another blow, added to a body already on the edge of shock from the flogging. Medical record: multiple penetrating wounds to the scalp, ruptured scalp blood vessels, compression of nerves along the skull surface, severe headache and neuralgia, additional trauma to a body already on the verge of shock. The soldiers knelt and mocked, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They did not know that they were kneeling before the true King of the entire universe. What they intended as mockery was in reality worship. He bore all of this shame in silence for you.
With the crown of thorns on his head and the scarlet robe on his back, he had to stand up. He had to place a crossbeam weighing 40 to 50 kilograms onto those lacerated shoulders, rough timber pressing directly against a back destroyed by the flogging. And he had to walk toward Golgotha, 600 meters. Via Dolorosa, the way of suffering, a narrow, winding stone road in Jerusalem, uphill, crowds on both sides, some mocking, some weeping. He fell, blood pressure on the verge of hemorrhagic shock, damaged muscles, severe dehydration. The body could not hold. Catholic tradition records that he fell 3 times on this road. Medically, 3 times may even be a conservative count. Pause for a moment. What would any other prisoner have done? Lain flat, screamed, refused to move, because what waited ahead was the cross. And yet he rose again, every time, in silence, forward, toward Golgotha.
The soldiers seized a man from the crowd, Simon of Cyrene. Cyrene is in present-day Libya, North Africa. He was an African Jew. He had come to Jerusalem to observe the Passover. He was simply passing by and was grabbed by compulsion. He must have thought, "Why me of all people? What terrible luck." But think about this. Simon is the only person in all of history who directly carried Jesus' cross. What began as compulsion placed him closer to Jesus than anyone else on that final road. It is like Peter. When Jesus borrowed Peter's boat to preach from, the one who listened most intently was Peter himself. Simon must have been the same. What he first thought was terrible luck became the most humbling moment of his life. That someone like him was used for this. His sons Alexander and Rufus later became significant figures in the early church. Paul mentions Rufus in Romans chapter 16. What began as compulsion became the starting point of an entire family's faith. And Jesus endured suffering as helpless as a lamb led to slaughter. He appeared to be able to do nothing, yet within that helplessness, he transformed Simon, and he was saving many. Here we must correct a misunderstanding. Do you think that because Simon carried the cross, Jesus was able to walk more comfortably? Not at all. Even after the crossbeam was taken from him, his body still fell. It was a body that collapsed even without the cross. The flogging had already done that. A body that medically could not rise, rose because of you.
Along both sides of the road, women stood weeping. They were not merely spectators. A woman who for 12 years could touch no one because of her bleeding. A woman freed from the torment of demons. A mother whose dead son was returned to her arms. Without him, I would not be here. And now he is covered in blood, falling. There was nothing they could do. Nothing except weep. With that fallen body, Jesus turned toward those women. "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children." This was not a rejection of their comfort. With a body on the verge of death, he was thinking not of his own suffering, but of their future. He knew that 40 years from now, the Roman general Titus would destroy Jerusalem, that the children now in those women's arms would grow up to face that devastation. This Via Dolorosa was the final act of Jesus' public ministry. Even while dying, he was still a shepherd. 600 meters. For a healthy person, less than 10 minutes. But for him, how long did those 600 meters feel? And he knew what was waiting at the end of this road. Still, he walked, step by step. These 600 meters were 600 meters walked for you. Next time, we will examine together the moment the nails were driven at Golgotha and the suffering on the cross, medically.